This week I was not feeling well, so I made a bowl of my Faux Pho, and there were a lot of requests for the recipe, so we're going to share it. I love this recipe for cold weather or when I'm not feeling well because it's really spicy. And you can adjust the spiciness depending on how many of the chilies you add and how much. But the reason that spicy food is good for a cold is that, first of all, the stuff that's inside of chilies, capsaicin, that, or however you pronounce it, that makes it spicy is antimicrobial. It can kill up to like 75% of bacteria that it comes in contact with. And so, especially like if you have a sinus infection or something like that, or swollen tonsils, this can help you at least feel a little bit better. I'm not going to make any claims that it cures anything, but I like it. It's tasty and it helps me feel better. It also just kind of opens up the sinuses. So I'm going to show you how we make it. It's very, very simple and very quick. Lots of shortcuts that make it doable in like 20 or 30 minutes. First thing we're going to do is we're going to start sweating our aromatics. So turn the heat on our pan to medium-high. We'll let that heat up a bit. Got some olive oil here, about a tablespoon probably, maybe a little bit less. I have a quarter of a yellow onion, and we're just going to kind of cut this into slices, pretty thin. I recognize that I am combining several different types of Asian cuisine here. This recipe was born out of me not feeling well, not wanting to go to the store, and just making something as close to pho as I could make with the stuff that I had in my house. And it was delicious, so I still make it. Now that this is heated up, I'm going to add in our aromatics. So I've got just a handful of cherry tomatoes, 5 or 6 cherry tomatoes, our sliced onion. I'm going to drop the temperature just below medium, and we'll cut our chilies. 2 Thai chilies will make a spicy soup for an American palate. If you're not much for spicy food, you can leave these out, or you can just do one. But I'm going to do both because that's just how we like it around here. All right, those chilies go straight in with those other ingredients. And I have here a tablespoon of minced garlic and probably a teaspoon and a half of grated ginger. The fumes coming off of there from the chilies and the ginger, it's pretty potent, so just caution. We'll let that sweat for a little bit, and we're going to start soaking our rice noodles as soon as that goes in there. So what we do is we just add hot water from the tap over the noodles until they're just covered, and then we'll let that sit for about 20 minutes, which will be about as long as it takes for us to finish this broth. Once the tomatoes have really kind of broken down, and you can see that in the bottom of the pan it's starting to kind of stick, then we're going to add our bone broth. So pho is made from a broth that is simmered for a really, really long time with animal bones. And so we're going to use bone broth instead of having to spend all that time creating our own. It's a great shortcut. Kettle and Fire is a great brand for this kind of soup. It's not quite as thick as some of the other ones can be. And that's not sponsored or anything. This is just the one that I prefer for this kind of soup. 2 cups of broth, and we'll add that in. To that, we're going to add 2 cups of water, and I'm just going to use this container since this is 2 cups exactly. And we're going to increase the temperature to medium-high, give that a stir, and bring that up to a simmer. Now that this is at a simmer, we're going to add just a few more ingredients. We have a tablespoon of fish sauce, and then 2 teaspoons of soy sauce. Stir that. Now I have about a tablespoon of miso paste, and that's just white miso. and 6 chicken wings. These ones I got out of my freezer, they're just frozen. I'm just gonna add them right in. You can use fresh ones as well, of course. We're gonna cover that, put it on medium, and that is gonna simmer for about 15 minutes, 20 minutes until the chicken wings are cooked. Full transparency, I make this much for myself, and then I just sip on it for like an hour and a half as I'm, laying in bed or something. But yeah, it'll feed 2 people. While that is cooking, we're going to prepare the bowls. So the way that this works is you put the noodles and the rest of these ingredients into the bowl, and then the hot broth goes over it along with the chicken. And that is what kind of cooks these remaining ingredients, except for this hoisin, which we'll add to the broth before we pour it. But here we have 2 cremini mushrooms. One of these, we'll cut them up, and then one goes into each bowl. And then the lime wedge, that will also be added just at the end. We have some fresh basil, 2 green onions, and then some mung bean sprouts. So I'm gonna start with the beans. We'll put those half, probably about a cup of this into each bowl. The mushrooms, dust those off, and then just thinly slice. We want about 1/4 to 1/3 of a cup of the basil. And this you can have as much or as little as you want. I really like it in the soup, so I add quite a bit. That will go right in there as well. We'll check on this and make sure that the chicken is coming along. If you're working with frozen chicken, make sure that the pieces are breaking apart. That'll help you cook faster. The last thing to cut is the green onions. So we're gonna just cut it in kind of at an angle here. We've cut that just so that we have it ready. That's gonna go on right at the end along with the lime wedges. Once the bowls are set up, I've got another pan back here that I'm gonna put on medium-high heat. And this is an optional step. What I do is once the chicken wings are cooked through, I remove them from the broth, and then I sear them in a pan so that the skin's not just completely soggy. And we'll let that preheat. This broth is done, so we will bring these over and add them right to the oil. They're gonna splatter, so heads up. Our liquid in here has also reduced down quite a bit. So I'm going to add another cup of water. And we're going to bring that back up to a simmer. In the home stretch, chicken's going to finish searing. That's coming back up to a simmer. So we're going to take our noodles and just put 1 serving into each bowl. And then 1/4 cup of hoisin sauce. Stir that up and turn the heat off. Chicken wings, 3 into each bowl, just right in the center. Take our ladle, half of the liquid into each bowl, just right over top. And last things, half of the green onion on each. Right over top, and then lime wedge, squeeze that in. This is ready to eat right now. It's so delicious. Takes about 30 minutes to make beginning to end, as opposed to actual pho, which takes like 2 days. But it's so delicious, and the flavors are amazing, will really be comforting as the weather begins to change. The full recipe is linked in the caption, as well as some of the equipment I've used. I'll also link to the gluten-free hoisin sauce that I use, and some other ingredients as well. Enjoy.